As long as there has been technology for communication, databasing, banking, and entertainment, there have been people lurking in the dark, furiously typing code with an ice-cold 32-ounce Mountain Dew, maybe a half-eaten gas station burrito, and a burning cig on the table. All of these amenities remain ignored as the hacker finally breaks through the ether and enters someone else's domain. Join us as we look at some of the more noteworthy, kooky, and at times terrifying cases of hacking.
Shall we play a game?
How Bizarre is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, we suggest you turn this wacky shit straight off.
Buenos dias.
Oh, hoy.
Hey, man.
Oh, hoy.
Ho, ho, hoy.
Ho, ho, hoy. Green Giant.
Ron's penis.
Do they still do the Green Giant?
Oh,
ho,
yeah.
ho. Is he still ho-ho-hoing? Is that bit still ho-ho-hoing?
Does one ever stop?
No, never. One's never out of the Green Giant game. Anywho, greetings and welcome back to How Bizarre. Tonight,
Bling, 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 bling.
it never gets old and it won't. 300 episodes in. How Bizarre. What's still the name of our show? Destination Unknown. Actually, Destination Unknown is a pretty good little tagger for our podcast. How Bizarre. Destination Unknown.
Love
Got
it.
a little two prongs to that joke.
Yeah.
Destination Unknown tonight. We're going to be talking about hackers. Well, some of these stories have come up over the years on the old podcast, but we've never really sat down and talked about sort of the origins of hacking and how it started as kind of prankery. There's still a ton of prankery in the world of hacking, but it went into a much more devious place, and we're going to talk about all of that later on tonight. But before we do, what you guys got for the newsroom roundup, if you will?
You know, I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to get you guys' feelings on it. But have you, with the holidays rapidly approaching, specifically Halloween, how do you guys feel about this petition that's being floated to change the date of Halloween?
Yeah, so it's always on a Saturday, much like we do with
Thanksgiving
Turkey Day.
or
It's always on a Thursday, which is
Labor Day.
weird. Why would we choose a Thursday? I guess we want that 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it, but I feel like we've kind of done a great job of adapting it. Like we all agree, usually, unless like if Halloween's on Wednesday, it's kind of like dealer's choice. Do we throw the big Halloween party on this Saturday or next Saturday? I think usually people like to do it before Halloween, before the actual night, because I think we've kind of blown our wad in a lot of. I mean, I could never get enough Halloween.
By Halloween, you're just like, oh no! I was just gonna say, like, by Halloween, you're like, fuck that. But you're like, I can't get enough.
No, I can never get enough. I'm a good comer for Halloween. But so and the other thing that I like about how it is now, first of all, there's just something kind of powerful about October the 31st. It's a good number. It's a good looking number. It's a good looking word, October. It's fun to say. But the way we do it now is we often get 2 Halloweens. Like we'll get the weekend one, and then we'll get the one proper. That's my stance on it.
Sure. John, Mark, and Lau, I'd love to get your thoughts on it too.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm
saying? I'm not one to stand on tradition. I think that Ron is correct in that we've pretty much adapted to having the grown-up parties on the weekend and
family
or like
doings on
the weekend before, and then like have do whatever you want on the actual day of, if you're so inclined and you have time and all that stuff. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. Otherwise, I honestly, you know what? It's like, it doesn't have any, I don't know. Because I was thinking about like, well, you wouldn't change the 4th of July, but that's a totally different thing, right? It's not it's a defined, this happened on this date. It's not some arbitrary thing that we pulled from some other mythology and just decided to do something with,
Sure.
So, either way, do whatever you want.
So you're not going to cry one way or the other. I don't think any of us will really care, but I don't like the idea of that change for some reason. Good.
Sure, and you and many, many other people did not as well. There was a lot of outcry when this petition was
funny what we got time for, isn't it? Time
my.
and passion. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my. The petition had almost 200,000 signatures, which is interesting to me. I'm kind of in the same boat you guys are. I could go one way or the other, but here's some interesting statistics, numbers on why they want to change this. Almost 4,000 Halloween-related injuries each year to kids that are going out there in the dark. 82% of parents aren't going to put any kind of high visibility aids on their costume, like reflectors or flashing lights or anything.
Right.
So
they're hoping that the move will be that you take your kids out at like 2:30 instead of 7.
And then you go out and you have your adult time that night too, if you're so inclined.
I thought we'd figured that out already. Like they have the little kid trick or treat downtown,
like downtown,
like 3 o'clock.
But when they do
or
it,
in one neighborhood.
They usually do it Saturday before, Halloween, or if it's on the weekend, they'll do it that time too. Let's see here. Some more interesting statistics. Kids are twice as much likely to get hit on Halloween than any other night.
That's right.
Maybe it's craziness.
Smack them little fucks.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like with the car?
Yeah. Struck by a moving vehicle. Or smacked by a rock.
Looking at me, little Darth Vader.
Three times as likely to get smacked by a rock. 63% of kids don't carry any kind of flashlight or anything when they trick or treat, even the older ones. 65% of parents don't discuss Halloween safety with their children. I mean, maybe this is more. Maybe the answer is
change it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Both.
Like all on parents being assholes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to be looking at what we're doing with our kids as opposed to
change the parents through the day. I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea to mix shit up every now and again. But
sure.
Who do you petition, and who decides? Who changes it?
That's a great question. I have no idea where it would go from here. But check this out. Now some of the candy companies are getting in on this. Snickers has offered to give away 1 million Snickers
Saturday
bars
only bar
if the date is changed. I don't know what the. I don't know why.
Then that's interesting because that
gain?
Well, there must be, or they wouldn't give two shits, or they would be leaning toward the other way.
I think it sounds like just a way to just get some publicity for free.
Gets everyone back into Halloween as if we weren't already.
I kind of blame Ron on like spoiling on me on Christmas, or not Christmas, but fucking Halloween, because like the real origins of it and how marketized it is, it's like it crushed me. And we talked about it in the old episode.
We mean like the whole origin from Celtic religion to how we got here. Yeah, we are chums. I mean, that's every holiday.
Either co-opted or made up.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a marketized little road that we've made our way here. It's made a lot of companies rich, and for
a lot of kids diabetes. But I will say this: if the Snickers bar. If the Snickers bar is looking into this, it makes me wonder if they're not behind it. I mean, who
Snickers bar in the sky?
Ultimately, someone's behind this.
Yeah,
and
why?
It's going to have to be someone with a lot more motivation than we care about the kids. Because let's be honest, we don't fucking care. What else are we going to change in our life to benefit our children? We're not giving up the shit that we love. We're not going to start doing things better. We're not going to quit drinking and driving with the kids in the backseat. Am I right, guys? Hang on, I got to pull over here. I don't want it to change, and I can't really explain why, other than that's just how it's always been, which is like the stupidest reason for anything.
That's it. And that's exactly what I thought when I started thinking about it. I was like, wait, why do I give a fuck?
Yeah, why do you?
Because that's how it's always been, but that's not even a real thing. We made it up, so who cares?
I think it's valid to get excited about 2 Halloweens, though, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, we love Halloween so much, we've made a Half-a-ween. The halfway through the year, we have Halloween. Not enough people celebrate that. We need to.
Halloween's what happens when I can't quite get there.
Yeah, it's Halloween. Halloween again tonight, Chris. Mm-hmm. Maybe tomorrow it'll be the other half. We can't know. I'm a whole ween over a couple days. Lyle, you were about to say something.
I want 3 weens.
Whole 3 ween Lyle, we call
pills,
them.
huh?
Hey man, I want a Halloween like a night every once a week for the whole month, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, Halloween's the greatest. Most other holidays I wouldn't give 2 shits about, but this one feels I don't know.
It's personal.
It's personal, and don't fuck with it. I just don't. I think, like Lyle said, I don't think it's broken. So
I think people are too petition happy these days. So they'll start a petition over anything.
Well, over anything stupid. We can't be bothered to start petitions on. Well, there are good causes out there, but I guarantee you there are some the most amazing, thought-provoking, possibly world-changing petition out there with 1,200 signatures on it. But fucking with our Halloween ain't over my goddamn body, boy. We're fools. We are a sea of fools. But God bless us. I do love me a Halloween. And yes, it's no more, it may be the gimmick. The gimmick.
The gimmick?
The gimmickest of all gimmicky holidays. I'm sticking with the gimmick. A lot of these holidays were invented by companies to sell candy and cards. We know this. So yeah, we're chumps, but so Valentine's Day was invented by a card company. Doesn't mean it's not sweet and a cute little holiday. I think it's stupid that is the official going out to dinner night, because everyone's just out to dinner. It's like going camping on Memorial Day weekend. I never got that. It's why of all days do you want? It's let's just take the entire neighborhood into the woods. That's all Memorial Day camping is. The point of camping is to get away from it all. You don't bring it all. Know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Tune in next week for another exciting I keep confusing issue. I make magazines and I make episodic shows of all sorts, and I
call these the issues, and then those the episodes.
This is the issues. This is where the issues come out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, transmission.
John Mark, you got anything for the newsroom roundup?
Well, I just think that it's funny as hell that Tool's new album kicked Taylor Swift out of the #1 spot on the Billboard album charts.
Yeah, it's kind of
cool,
unbelievable, and a lot of the articles are why? Even coming from people that are Tool fans and they like the new album, they're like, how does this band manage to stay interesting and relevant to a large, diehard group of people? It's been 12 years since their last album.
What's also interesting about it, like you just mentioned, it's been over a decade since they put out anything new. And they didn't do one of the things I was just reading about was talking about how they didn't do any of the things that the modern music industry says you have to do to get to that point as far as selling albums. They didn't sell bundles, they didn't do any promotions, they didn't do any weird, you know what I mean? They didn't
even do digital until this last record.
Featuring anybody, their shit wasn't even available online.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing like featuring Pitbull on it or anything.
No, none of that stuff.
Yeah, thank you, baby.
I am just a hoo-hoo-rowing. Very strange.
Every once in a while, I'll get in a position to where I'll be somewhere and they'll be playing the exact fucking soundtrack to Boost Mobile 2011. You know what I'm talking about, Ron? And I tell Jen,
oh wait, what was the noise? Every fucking song had that breakdown. Wait for it, man! It's gonna fucking be on when that gets kicked back in, son. Wait for it. Yeah, mostly I just fast forward to that part. Good Lord.
Anyways.
Yeah, Taylor Swift. Not for long, and it's short-lived, but interesting that can still happen in this modern age when I feel like more people care about rock and heavy metal now than they did a decade ago. Nowhere near the heyday, right? There was a time when Top 40 had bands like fucking Guns N' Roses and Queensryche and Metallica. And there was a couple of years there where the top 10 was at least a third or more metal or hard rock. Those days is long gone, son, but I feel like it's better now than... The love for it is better now than it was. I think what happened was a lot of people got into this whole idea of everything being ironic. This is how Journey had that resurgence, because people thought it was funny to get themselves this ring-teed Journey shirt they got at Goodwill for $2 as a joke and irony. It's like, may as well pick up the record while I'm at it. May as well toss it on. It's like, shit, kind of fucking good stuff. And it's like, oh, Def Leppard. I remember loving them when I was 8. I'm gonna throw that on for shits and giggles. Like, damn, that's some catchy shit, Ross Hire. And then the production of it, that all went away. And every music video just was some dickhead trying to look tough and cool standing on some car. And he hired all his friends and family to stand around him, bouncing and jumping up and down. This was true from like rock, rap, punk. Every fucking video was that for a while. Remember that shit? Like what? Where do we get a car? And how many people can we get to circle us and make us look like rock stars?
That arena rock. Mm-hmm. What you're kind of describing is like, like
Def Leppard and
Def Leppard
back in the day.
Skid Row. I was watching an interview with Sebastian Bach, and he said at the end of it wasn't. I don't think it was the one of like ATN Life on it, that tour. I think it was a little bit older. In his art, whatever in his music. And
Monkey Business was at that one. That's a great fucking album.
It might have been
underrated band. Skid Row.
It might have been the Monkey Business, like that album.
Yeah.
He said by the end of the tour, he owed his pyrotechnics like over fucking like $200,000. He said he had to pay for that whole concert. Like the whole tour. Like as we're on tour, at the end of it, when you're like, oh man, that was a rad tour, but like, we're gonna be rolling in cash. No, dude, he had to pay $200,000
out of pocket over the pyros.
Yeah,
it's a different world now. They used to make their money on CD sales or album sales, and so they didn't have to tour as much, and they could get really fucking crazy with their tour. Speaking of which, John Mark, you were just at Iron Maiden for your 10th time.
Yes, by my reckoning, it was my 10th Iron Maiden show.
How would you rank it in terms of like your favorite show?
Fuck, man, I don't know. It was pretty up there.
Yeah, they're still so good. It's crazy that they're that good.
Their stage production was insane.
I saw the plane, the tiger plane, or whatever.
They start out the first song. They have almost a full scale replica of a Spitfire above them flying around. It's like,
is that for Tail Gunner? What was that for? What song was that
for? Aces High.
Aces High. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
What's the what's the 10-year anniversary stone for Iron Maiden shows? Like bone, like skull.
Yeah, I would think, or maybe like a pewter Eddie head or something.
Pewter.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a
pewter anything. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What was your first Iron Maiden? As the tours were out, what was the first one you went to?
It was Somewhere in Time.
I'm so pissed that I missed that one.
Also at the Tacoma Dome.
Very cool, man.
That was the album I fell in love with.
Somewhere in Time was awesome. I had an opportunity to go. I just didn't have the money. The Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And that's when I was in love with Iron Maiden the most.
That was the Maiden England tour. And John Mark and I were both at that in, 88.
Yeah.
And then they did their reunion, or not reunion, but their...
Did you guys know? You guys didn't know each other there?
No, but we were doing similar dance moves, the opposite ends of the stage.
I actually didn't go to that show.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
no,
I thought you were.
And I, for whatever reason, like when that album came out, I wasn't feeling it. Like the production was like
too much synth.
It was too thin for me, and and I was just.
That's
like,
funny because you fucking love that album now. Yeah,
I do. And there's like acoustic guitars on there. I was like, what the fuck is happening here?
What's this pussy shit?
I'm 13. Yeah. Fuck you.
And I just didn't really get into it, But now I really, really love it, of course.
Yeah.
Because it's a classic. But
well, you got to see the anniversary of it with me, and that was
the revisit. But God. I vowed in 2000, like when they reunited, basically, with everybody back in the Bruce and Adrian and stuff, and they put out Brave New World, I was like, okay, I'm never going to miss another Iron Maiden show as long as they come to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Or within a reasonable driving distance,
or the like,
I haven't.
Yeah.
What did you think about the whole thing with the security guard and that dude? I guess, but I heard Bruce Dickinson shut down that show for a little bit. Why?
Well, so what happened was that happened during Sign of the Cross. And if you watch the video, if you go to YouTube and watch the video, there's people that have video of that whole song, and you can see stuff happening at the front. Mm-hmm. And if you watch Bruce, you can see him look over and look to see what's going on. And during that song, he has this big sort of like a cross thing that has all these flashlights in it. It's like this big cross thing that glows. And you can see him walk over to stage right and start shining it into the crowd when some shit's going down. He's like shining it in there. And it's not because he's like playing up to the crowd. He's like trying to put a spotlight on what's
problem.
Happening. Yeah. And I think they had like couple more songs before the end of the first set, and then after they came out for the encore, before they played the first song for the encore, is when he did his little tirade there. From what I gather, the guy that I don't know, because there's like two sides to this story, right? But apparently there was a person that was down there that had been causing problems all evening, and security couldn't get him out.
Yeah, that's a tough gig.
And he'd been like trying to punch people and stuff like that, and
there's always one
causing a problem. So there was a reason for them to like get him out of there. Apparently, he's a big dude, and they needed more people to get him. But like, I don't know, they probably did go overboard on what they did to him after they got him out. But who knows? I don't. Like I said,
did they shoot him? What happened when they got him?
They beat him pretty badly. Apparently.
Oh shit! Yeah, you can't go doing that either.
The guy popped the security guard right in the face, and then the security guard, because he's right in the front row, so he's holding on to the gun. And the security guy, I guess, was telling him to let go of the gate, stop, and he wouldn't do it. And then the guy in the crowd popped him right in the face. You can see it in the video. And he just fucking went off on him, dude. I mean, this security guard is obviously in shape, and this guy's...
Well, they usually don't get small people that can't handle themselves to do security at these big shows.
Well, I think the thing is what they saw is when they got him down on the ground and stuff like that, people were like kicking him and stuff like that. And that's what
so they
saw that he was.
Yeah, like, so I think that there was fault going around on both sides. I think that that guy, was being a dick, and they needed to be removed, but they probably went aboard a little bit on how they treated him after they got him out of the crowd.
Ultimately, these security guards are just people, and some of them are going to be assholes, and some of them are going to not be able to contain themselves, and they're not. It's not like they're trained assassins.
I'll be interested to see what happens in like 6 months or something, because this is a pretty public story. It was on like the news and stuff, So
interesting.
We'll see if there is some sort of lawsuit.
I'm always amazed when I'm standing.
Security or whatever.
Yeah, I'm always amazed when I'm standing amidst 15, 20,000 people at a loud, heavy show, at how controlled it usually is. Like, I think those are good indicators that we as a species, for the most part, we want to be orderly, and we want to be decent humans, and we just want to go out and have a good show, because holy shit, could that turn unbelievably bad in a second, and it sometimes does.
Yeah.
It surprised me, like the Whitewater Amphitheater.
Yeah.
Because it's got chairs and stuff, and I would assume, fucking Slipknot plays there, dude.
Yeah, that's where John Mark and I saw Maiden play a couple times.
Those chairs would be ripped out of the ground about halfway through the concert. But I would rather be kind of like in an open field, or at least have footing around me in a concert.
Yeah.
This is being like stuck around chairs.
As an old man, I like the option to sit every now and then. You know what? I don't love this song.
I swear to God, I went and saw the Foo Fighters play up in Canada maybe 6 years ago. And, even then I was, in my early 30s, and, it was 3.5 hours, and I was just like, I want a chair so bad.
Yeah, man.
Chad and I were talking.
I don't like to go unless I unless I have a seat, a reserved seating, because I just can't. But even though this Iron Maiden show, everybody at Iron Maiden show fucking stands up, even if they were in a reserved seating. So it's like, God damn it, I guess I'm standing up.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to stand up, but you know, occasionally there'll be a song where you're like, I'll sit this one out, quite literally.
Yeah,
just like give these old ham bones a rest. Yeah. But my friend Chad and I were talking about the sadness of giving into the old man shoe. Now I'm rocking some fairly decent looking old man shoes, but they're like tennis shoes.
I like a silver sneaker now?
That doesn't fit my vibe, man. Fashion is important to me, but it's not enough anymore to throw a couple Dr. Scholl's in there in like a cool looking shoe, a dress shoe like I like to wear. It's not enough. It's not doing it anymore. And holy shit, now that I'm on old man shoes, I feel like I'm walking on air. I'm the greatest American hero.
Like, what does it look like? It looks like a sneaker?
I'll take a picture. Yeah, it looks like a sneaker up close, but I'm always in the dark. I work in a bar, and it's always dark in there. So if I really need to be seen, I'll wear my fancy shoes. But on day-to-day activities, I can't rock. Ironically, what used to be old man shoes, the new old man shoe is gleaming white tennis shoes, and I'm weeks away from that, the way these bones feel. You got to understand, our phones... I don't know if all of you know this, but they're constantly recording your steps. You just have to dial it up. It's in the health app. It'll tell you how many steps you walk a day. I'm on an average radar station day for me is between 12 and 15,000 steps. That's several miles that I'm walking on hardwood floor and up and down stairs and then cement downstairs.
That's pretty good.
So it's like it's a chunk of. So can you imagine like walking half of your local loop trail in dress shoes? That's what I've been doing. It's like no wonder I fucking ache like a motherfucker at the end of the night. I'm 44. I'm 44 on Thursday. Actually, it's my birthday week. What do you think about them shits?
I wish I was there, buddy.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you.
Can we have like a minute when we show up to town where we just pretend it's your birthday and sing the song and have a shot?
Do the old chaotic song where everyone picks a different song to sing. That's become a huge thing at Radar now.
It really needs a name, like a good name, not just chaotic birthday song. Like for those of you that don't know, Ron, I don't know if you came up with this or if
I did. I thought of it at John Mark's birthday.
God, it's been so. I can't tell you how many times I've done that to people.
Still have that video floating around somewhere.
Yeah, I just saw it the other day.
Instead of singing Happy Birthday, you pick someone to sing Happy Birthday, but demand that everybody else sings any song they want to at random. And the idea is y'all wrap up at the end of when that person's done singing Happy Birthday. So if you have even 5 or 6 people in a room,
it's enough.
It's enough, and it's impactful. Like, you will not forget.
It's the strangest thing. You can't describe it until it happens. You're like, what is happening?
Well, you try to pick them out.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part, is trying to figure out what everybody else is singing.
Yeah, it is fun to do that, and it's really hard. You can only get like 1 or 2 at the most. There's always a Bohemian Rhapsody. I've noticed that. No matter how small the crowd, there's at least one Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's great.
And usually if it's a bigger crowd, you're going to get at least one Baby Got Back. But you got to expect that.
I always get a Rick roll in my group.
Well, that's good too. You had to have seen the Foo Fighters footage at this point, where it sounded like they were kind of gonna. The Foo Fighters were playing. They kind of
Rick
were
roll
doing
is totally
something
respectable.
that sounded a little like Smells Like Teen Spirit. And he's like, this song goes back to a different time. It was like it wasn't quite Smells Like Teen Spirit, but everyone's going like ape shit. You know, if you're drunk and you're in the audience, it's like, holy shit, are they gonna do Smells Like Teen Spirit? And then all of a sudden it goes into, I just want to tell you how I feel.
Did you see it when they actually brought him out on stage? And yeah, it was so good.
That was amazing. Rick Astley has to wake up every fucking morning and think, did that just happen? People care about me? Like, he had to have had the most dormant last 20 years. And now all of a sudden...
That one meme.
He's a meme. Like, he's a legend. It's like the same thing with Chuck Norris. How long was he dormant? Did anyone care about him? Yeah. He became a conservative, religious politician kind of guy. It's like no one cared about Chuck. And all of a sudden, one joke.
Betty. Yeah.
I wonder what that meme did for sales of that single for him, like on iTunes and stuff.
Oh my god, this is fascinating.
Never gonna be homeless. Never gonna sell my car. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude. I feel like my birthday's Saturday.
That's right.
I will be 44 also, but I used to always.
Not that it's a competition.
I'm 44 too, man.
Ronnie's older than me by 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
I always looked at it like on my birthday. I always look ahead like every year to find out what day it's on, because if it was like on a Friday or a Saturday, it was fucking getting it on. You know? And now it's on a Saturday, and I just feel sad.
Ain't gonna be no getting it on. There's got to be some version of getting it on you can do.
It's sad. I don't have anything I could do these days. I mean,
seltzer
literally
water and
coffee and maybe some
mocktail,
maybe a rope and a coffee.
I'm gonna drink so many mocktails.
People walk by.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't drink and I can't smoke, and I can't smoke weed. I can't do anything.
Yeah, well, you got to find something. Got to find some way to get your rocks off. 24 hours jerk off. You asked that real creepy. Can you jerk off?
So, in space, we're feeling a little bizarre up in space today, and some we haven't really heard anything about in a while is China. You remember China was blasting off and going to explore the dark side of the
next
moon.
one to go. Yeah.
Oh, they did. And they've been there for a while, and they discovered back in July that there was this weird, ominous gel, and it was shiny. It was something they just seen. They were like,
oh right, yeah, they got the rover up there right now. Yeah,
they do, and they're exploring the dark side of the moon. So they see this gelatinous, weird looking thing in the crater, and they don't know what it is. And all they could say is as it is described that it's a mysterious luster. Like it has this weird, mysterious luster.
That's my porn name. Mysterious luster.
Mysterious luster. So anyway, they're like...
I saw Mysterious Luster open for Butthole Surfers in '89.
Ooh, good pull. Good pull. Gotta get Sheen.
Right now, it's as the Rovers... Have you seen them win?
I saw Mysterious Luster open up the Butthole Surfers, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh shit, that's got a luster as well. Mm-hmm.
So I guess the rover has to kind of power down a little bit and then repower back up. I don't know what that is, if that's kind of weird battery cell thing where it has energy for a while, but then it has to shut down to
before it gets charges by the sun.
Yeah. So they're like right now it's kind of in its little nap zone. Where it's not doing anything right now, but they want to go and to the crater and somehow get something out of it, but they don't. It's not rigged that way. It's not rigged to have instruments to pull in to bring anything back or to look at it there. So it's kind of like a mystery. A mystery,
huh?
A mystery.
Mysterious luster.
I'm on a coffee drunk right now.
Well, that's interesting.
But scientists say that what they think it could be possibly is something that crashed into the moon, and the heat, it's kind of some space glass or something. That's what's giving it the weird, mysterious luster.
The sheen.
Space Glass was, I believe, the second album by Mysterious Luster, wasn't it? Yeah, well, are we done? Are we done joking about Mysterious Luster?
You took it too far, Ron.
It's no longer mysterious.
But the other thing is it could be gel. It could be some kind of weird X-Files fucking black goo. You never know.
That thought is always in my head with things from space, whether it's a meteor landing or something residue coming off the space shuttle.
Like a symbiote, like a venom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing is, we always go to the dark possibilities of some sort of mysterious goo or luster, but who knows? That could be the cure for cancer up in there. I mean, it could be the cure for everything. We don't know what the fuck is out in the universe at all, especially even right in our own front porch, which is the moon. And they're pretty certain that this is not a camera anomaly, or they've got different angles of it, and
sir, they got their eyes on the prize.
Oh, I gotta check that shit out. That's interesting. Well, it's a misnomer that we call it the dark side of the moon because it does get light, but is it darker than usual? I don't know. How does that work?
I have no idea.
I know it gets light. We've got pictures of the dark side of the moon. It's just as lit as... It looks just as lit as the other side. But, but we don't know what's on there. And it's interesting that it seems way smoother. Like all the big craters are on the side that we face. It seems like it would be way more pockmarked on the other side, right? That should be like Danny fucking Trejo's face in high def on the other side. Like, isn't that the shield? I feel like that's the side that's protecting us. But, what do I know? We don't know shit. We don't know shit, son. I'm working on a new moon show. We've talked about moon hoax theories, but I just did a column for the Comet magazine on the history of the moon theory, or the moon hoax theory. But I touched on the new moon thing, and we've talked about that, how all of a sudden there's no cave drawings or any ancient relics depicting the moon, and all of a sudden there are pictures from this date on showing the moon, and everyone's super intrigued by it as if it was a new thing. Of course, ancient aliens and any towed moon theorists out there, and that is a thing, that the moon was actually towed into orbit, whether it's a giant metal spaceship. And we've talked about how one of the moon landers claimed that as soon as the lander hit the surface, it made a bong sound. That's so great. Fucking intriguing. But I'm working on some new shit. But mostly I want to talk about the Stanley Kubrick angle again, because there's new shit on that. Even since the documentary, what is it, Room 237? 232? I can't even remember the room. But anywho, let's get on to the tales of hacking.
Chapter 1. The Pioneers of Hacking.
Before computers as we know it, you had people hacking things like payphones, cable TV, broadcast radio, just about anything electronic. But if you're looking at something that's actually based in technology and hooliganism, the one that I found that I liked the most was in 1878, and that was when some teenage boys snuck into a Bell telephone switchboard and just started fucking about with things and misdirecting calls and connections and doing pranks. And this was in 1878. That is essentially an early episode of hacking. A lot of these earlier hackers were basically pranksters. And the telephone hackers in general later on became known as phreaks with the PH. I'm guessing because it's phone related. I can't confirm that. But people tricking the phone company to get free long distance calls, or free pay phone calls, or setting up their own party lines, or eavesdropping on somebody. And apparently the term hacker was
phone freaking.
Yeah, phone freaking. There's some of that, I think, in the Anarchist Cookbook, like teaching you how to basically turn. It's antiquated technology, of course. I think even the most revised version that I read, mostly based on 70s and early 80s technology. But I caught the tail end of some of that stuff, and we'll talk about that later. I'm looking forward to talking about that, actually. But
I'm thinking about like old time hacking is like colonial days with like the lemon water and heat, and we're like, they're gonna hack this independence.
Well, there's the spirit behind hacking has been there since the dawn of time. We just had to let technology catch up to it so that we could basically do this. We're just it's elements of our own human nature and our own personalities that come through in how you're going to hack one thing or another, I suppose, and what you do with it. But the term hacker was born at MIT, and it was mostly used to describe someone with mad ninja electronics or computational skills. It wasn't necessarily anything clandestine or, below board. And all of this was essentially the birthplace of hacking. And as computer technology became more and more affordable and available, more people jumped on board. I mean, it's fun. Like some kid in my high school hacked into the system. I'm sure Lyle remembers this. And, he changed around some grades. And he got caught and punished, but not until those changes had gone unnoticed for days or maybe even weeks. And I actually hacked into my high school using my Commodore 64, believe it or not. And it was a 15 baud modem. Little Ronnie was dialing up a modem in 1992. And I was able to access some records. All I really got was like truant kids, like kids that were in trouble, and I was able to look at my own file. It was fucking hilarious. And I showed Fred. Lyle, did I ever show you that? Did you ever come over and see? I feel like you must have been there one of those nights that I was, because we were hanging out by then. But anyway, that's how the term hacking came to be. It had no specific connection with nefarious doings. Not much was on computers in the schools back then in terms of like records. But what you did find was incredibly easy to access and manipulate. I mean, you just used the school's phone number with one digit different. That's how they did it back then. And so you would just try them all until one worked. It was like war games, really, but easier. You know, the early days of hacking. Well, war games seemed tricky to me. Like, that kid's smart. I don't know what he's doing. I was a dummy, and I was able to hack into my fucking high school. Although I was pretty crafty with my Commodore 64. I even learned how to program it and made my cousin and I made remember the games like You're in a Dark Room. You look over, they're all text based, like The Hobbit and Zork and
Head East.
Yeah, what was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? That was a fun one to play. That was fucking hard though. But we made one that was filthy. It's like you're surrounded by 8 naked nymphomaniacs, of course.
Do you remember doing DOS? Like, dude, we were like 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade, and we had to learn DOS coding and do this DOS readout where you do pages of shit, and then once it illuminated it out, it was just like a smiley face.
Yeah.
And like 8-bit pixel.
Yeah.
You know, insane. I can't remember any of that.
So fucking ancient. But the early days of hacking was largely tied to the early days of computing in general. You know, a lot of these guys that were creating these smaller machines for home computing were also part-time hackers. This was just a hobby to fuck around with the technology. That's what these guys loved to do. Mostly just fucking around for a laugh, maybe causing a little trouble here and there, but nothing major. And you also had the first wave of computer games coming around in the late 70s and early 80s, and this led to people essentially hacking the games or making mods, which is a very common thing to do now, but back then it was like you could take Donkey Kong and make Donkey Cock. You could, by just changing some of the sprites around in the code, you could add a dick on Donkey Kong, and they could stamp your name on it and sell those games under your...
Turned it into Donkey's Kong.
Yes, I had a lot of hacked games, pirated games on my Commodore 64, and it was hilarious because it was still... you know, Defender of the Crown or Speed Buggy. It was still the same gameplay, but it would be a different name, slightly different graphics. You had one of the girls, like that would wave the flag. She'd have titties hanging out, of course, in 8 bits. But there was my favorite part about these was there was like an opening title sequence that was usually some super cheesy graphics. I mean, it had to be. But there would sometimes, like I had one that was a sample of ZZ Top's TV Dinners or Cheap Sunglasses, one of those songs. And then would have all these dancing lines across the screen, and it'd be like you could tell it was an 8-bit map of the kid's face, like the hacker's face, and it would be something on the bottom like this game was hacked by or cracked by Jimmy Buttwad or whatever, and his signature was like graffiti. You know, these were artists in their own mind, and I kind of think they were like this was the Old West, and you had a disc that you could pop in your Commodore 64 or whatever. And you could manipulate it and spit it out to another disc, and in a way that I don't understand. I have no idea. I mean, it's code work, but I loved that stuff, and it was cool. It was like pirate radio, you know. It was there's something a little bit outlaw about it. Yeah, it was nerdy and ultimately not very interesting, but they did it just because they could do it. I always appreciated that. And you had this culture growing in bedrooms and basements across the country where young people were experimenting with coding and, you know, cracking the fairly simple softwares. This oftentimes led to a life of this kind of work, you know, some on the level, some nowhere near any kind of level. And we think of the internet as a 90s invention, and for most of us it may as well have been, but in reality, computer networks were already being set up in the 70s, and by the mid-80s, there were these hubs or electronic bulletin boards set up. And I remember signing into one that Thrasher magazine started. That was my first inclination that there was this thing that you could dial up and access. And they had articles on thrashing. They had these little, on thrashing, on skateboarding, animations of a skater it really wasn't a graphically based system. It was
No.
it was just text, but you could log on and you could select different articles and interviews, and you could order things. There was like a catalog. It felt like the future. And you have to understand, this was like 1991, 92, and I'm dialing this shit up in my bedroom, and I'm accessing something that's not there. It's far away. I realize this makes me sound like a cave person, but we are only one generation out from people that died before they ever really saw the internet. You know what I mean? Like, we're only that far away from how new all of this was, even in its early phases. And even back then, the only people that really knew about these things were computer nerds. I only knew because my uncle was a computer nerd, and he gave me all this Commodore 64 shit. He gave me a couple of boards and tons of games. And because he was that guy that would sit in his basement and download shit and find other people that had games, and he's a gamer. This is a very, very common thing now. This was not common back in the day to have, 400 video games in your bedroom. Yeah, Nintendo was out, but it was still fairly new, and you couldn't hack that shit. You couldn't do anything with it except play it and pray that it worked half the time. After we, dropped them so many times and had to blow in the dust off them. It was the old thing where you had to put you had to put 2 cartridges in because the spring thing broke.
So you can make it go down further.
Just hold it down. But anyway, so that's sort of the culture and how this all came to be. And the only people that really cared about them were the enthusiasts. But by the late 80s, that completely changed because of video games, mostly. Home computing was a thing that people were talking about, but we weren't really interested in, office work with computers at home at that point. Go ahead, Lau.
Well, I think you nailed it. I was going to say in the late 80s and early 80s and stuff like that, it was a lot of DOS. It was a lot of programming. You had to write that shit out to even get it to go because we didn't have Windows.
You had to text. You had to write sentences to get your games to play on a Commodore 64. It's been forever, but I think it was like you had to type load, quote, 8, or what was it? Load, quote, asterisk, quote, comma, 8, comma, 1 would get you, and then enter. That would get you, I think, the list of all the games or all the programs on that disk.
On the hard drive.
Then you would see what the name of that program was. Then you would do load, quote, asterisk, quote, comma, 8, comma, 1. I think, like, comma, the name of that thing. You can see how it was the early way of naming, like, files. Like, it was just, think of how files are named either on your desktop or online. Yes. It's an address / file name. So yeah, it was really clunky. And like Maniac Mansion, which is one of my favorite games to play, it took like 3 minutes to load, and then certain things you had to flip the disk over because there wasn't enough room for the information on that side. Then you had to wait another 3 minutes for a little cinematic thing, and they were doing cutaway screens. It was early cutaways. Then you'd flip the disc back over to continue play. Like this. We are talking about the caveman days of gaming, and but as the more and more people bought them, the networks grew, and soon companies and schools and car lots and video stores were setting up their databases and electronic accounting systems on one computer, and the stage was set for some pretty easy criminal activity. Now, War Games came out in 1983, and that got computer hacking into the minds of the masses. I would guess that that's like probably a lot of people's first inclination that this was even a thing. And
it's so funny because that must have been like, I think about every generation has like that movie. For me, it was Hackers. Like, that was my fucking movie for when I think of hacking.
Well, that was definitely more next level. That's what what we think of hacking now, I suppose. Although, as you'll see, we're still fucking hacking into NORAD. But War Games was, even though there was a lot of Hollywood horseshit moments in that movie, the powers that be admitted that there was some truth to it, so much so that it freaked them out into ramping up their own remote accessibility at NORAD. So it's not actually that hard for me to imagine a teenager with a modem, some Mountain Dew and some time to kill, infiltrating these incredibly simple mainframes that we were using at the time. the kinds of people that were hacking computers in those earlier days. This should tell you all you need to know. Now, I'm quoting an entry from the History of Hacking website. It says, in the late 80s in Milwaukee, a group of hackers called 414 broke into systems at institutions ranging from Los Alamos Laboratory to Manhattan's Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Then the cops shut them down. The great rivalry started between two groups called LOD and MOD. This rivalry was called the Great Hacker War. A man who called himself Lex Luthor founded the Legion of Doom. It was named after a Sunday morning cartoon, of course. The LOD, someone out there is like, oh my God, it's Lod and Mod, you boomer. I'm not a boomer. The LOD had a reputation of I know that's exactly how these people are talking. Attracting the best of the best. Best of the best. Until one of their brightest members, Fiber Optic, feuded with Legion of Doomer, Eric Bloodaxe. And got kicked out. This is real. This is actually real history of hacking. And got kicked out of the clubhouse. He and some of his friends then formed a rival group called the Masters of Deception. Are you starting to get a feel for who these people are right here?
Yes.
It goes on to say, starting in 1990, LOD and MOD were involved in online warfare for almost 2 years. They were jamming phone lines, monitoring calls, and trespassing in each other's private computers. Things got so bad that the Fed stepped in and put a stop to it. Fiber and his friends were sent to jail, and this put an end to an era. Now, I'm guessing the era that they're referring to is the sort of shucky darn boys club hacking era, when it was just a bunch of nerds just kind of fucking with each other and egging each other on, and in terms of like ramping your skills up, but also what clever stupid thing could you come up with. This is what I'm talking about. It's like hacking is really just another extension of the human nature, and because it was for a long time primarily, I'm sure it probably still is, a boys club, it is filled with some stupid shit. But anywho, I thought that was interesting that they hacked into Los Alamos Laboratories. That kind of feeds into where we end up heading down in the future. In terms of like naming some of those early prominent hackers, if we're sticking with straight up computer hacking, then Kevin Mitnick has to be in the running. He's certainly the most well-known, maybe of all time, but definitely of the 90s. As the manhunt to find him was widely publicized.
Chapter 2. The most notorious hackers in the world.
Case number 1, the Condor. Now, Kevin Mitnick was a young hacker prodigy, basically. When he was 12 years old, he figured out a way of... I can't remember what the story was not clear, but he did some dumpster diving and some fast talking and basically figured out the infrastructure of the LA Transit's pay system, and he gamed it so that he could ride the bus for free. At 12, figured out how to do that, and it was an electronic system. And in 1987, he was arrested for hacking into a software company, and he was given 2 years probation for that. But a year later, while he was still on probation, he was arrested again, and this time for he broke into a software company and downloaded and copied all their software to sell and use for himself. Now, at that point, he was sentenced to a year in jail and 6 months in a computer-free halfway house, which I found interesting. It's like someone who gets in a DUI hit and run scenario has to go. He's not ready for society yet. He's got to clean up, and he got to be away from all the bad stuff. So he couldn't go near a computer for 6 months.
I'd love to see a guy from the 80s just pop into that house. Just like, wait, what's wrong?
Yeah, fuck is this?
The guy's so sad.
Now, one of his many aliases was the Condor, but all mysterious shit aside, at the time, Mitnick claimed that he was actually suffering from a hacking addiction. He said that he couldn't help himself, and by the 90s, he'd graduated to snooping through the systems of some pretty fucking major companies. I mean, Motorola, Sun, Pacific Bell, and eventually the fucking Pentagon. Like, he hacked himself into the Pentagon, at which point, of course, the FBI put him on the most wanted list. For a while, he was one of the most wanted people in the country. For 2 years, he was on the lam. And it was a pretty interesting story. You know, the idea of an outlaw hacker on the loose was a pretty novel thing in the early 90s, and we're all tech crazy. You know, this is the birth of technology in a lot of ways for computer-minded folk. That's where computer magazines were quadrupling overnight, and tips and tricks on how to get your Windows machine up and running. We could not get enough technology-related shit. Every stupid, cheesy horror movie at the time was connected to the internet. You remember the movie The Net? It wasn't really a horror movie with Sandra Bullock. I haven't seen that movie since it came out, but I remember liking it quite a bit. And I remember thinking, like, the whole premise of that was Sandra Bullock, Sandra? Is it? What is it? Sandra? What is it? You guys say it. I can't. It doesn't sound right out of my mouth. What is it? Sandra Bullock. Sandra
sounds right.
Sandra. So Sandra plays a basically one of these types of people. She has hacking capabilities, but she uses her power for good. She debugs software, and she gets this piece of software. If I remember right, it was called Mozart's Ghost. I know that's right, actually, because when I say it out loud...
way too much about this movie, man.
I liked it. I had it on VHS, and I remember watching it.
You haven't seen the net tattoo? Jesus, Hart.
It's on my Sandra buttock, you know? No love for Sandra buttock. Anyway, she was... I can't remember the exact premise, but there's this... She's decoding this thing, and she discovers something hidden in it. All these movies and all these stories were based in the world of... It's like that... What was that NES movie with Kevin from The Wonder Years?
Oh, The Wizard.
The Wizard, yeah.
I love that movie.
Remember how a lot of that was...
I was going to say The Power Glove.
Yes, a lot of that was based...
Yeah.
A lot of that was based in reality and real things, and it was the introduction of Super Mario Brothers 3 to the world. That came out before the game, and we're like, holy shit, we got to play that game. But then we get the game, and it's like...
Power Glove? Oh, my God, yeah.
The Power... Yeah, nothing was like... And even when he's playing Super Mario 3 in the big tournament, he's like, get the bonus! Like, what? Bonus? Yeah. What are you talking... Like, just use real Nintendo words. It's like, This is what Hollywood always does, is they take, like, a tiny bit of a thing, and they just bullshit it up. So that never slowed down. But anyway, Mitnick was on the lam for 2 years, and everyone knew the story. And in a funny bit of irony, Mitnick had hacked into computer security expert, I'm going to botch this, I'm sure of it, Sutamu Shumamura is how I'm going to say it. And he was so pissed that he started tracking all of the hacks on his own time to help the FBI locate him. And they did. They traced him all the way to North Carolina. He just went straight across the country, and he was charged with like 25 computer crimes and sentenced to 5 years. And when he got out in 2000, he started his own company, his own computer security firm. And he's now one of the leading experts in the field, working for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And at one point in prison, though, when they first sent him to prison, like the judge that sent him away was so freaked out about his abilities to get into the Pentagon and to access certain files that Mitnick admitted he'd accessed that they didn't even know about. The judge ordered him for a time to be in solitary confinement for a hacker. And the reason was he was convinced that Mitnick could launch a bank of nuclear weapons by whistling a certain code over the phone. Wow. A hacker in solitary confinement. But who knows? Maybe he could have.
Yeah.
Case 2 is the data stream cowboy. Mitnick wasn't the only one to infiltrate what you would think would be the hardest place to infiltrate, the Pentagon. Matthew Bevan and Richard Price were two Welshmen that caused all sorts of trouble when they tag teamed to hack back in 1996. After weeks of digging and digging, they finally got in, and they stole a bunch of their battlefield simulations and maps, like war maps. And then, unbelievably, they start intercepting agent messages stationed in North Korea. They hacked into North Korea's, how do I describe this? Their missile shit. All the information about where they had missiles, the type of missiles they had, how to access those missiles. They stole that information from North Korea and downloaded it into the Pentagon. This really could have gone bad. If this had happened like in modern time, remember this was the 90s, if this happened now, it might have just been nuclear war. Like, no, those crazy motherfuckers over there would not be given the time of day to any of our explanations. But back then, we were able to talk them down and show them, at least prove to them, that it was a civilian attack. And,
this is weird.
And it wasn't even a U.S. attack.
If you think about it now, it's just insanely fucking weird. If you look at technology that was back then and evaluate it to what it is now, it's insane, dude. Yeah. I mean, our processors alone are freaking 8 core. You know, there's 8 cores in them. Mm-hmm. You know, back then, dude, you only had like 1. You know,
500 megahertz would be rocking and rolling. You'd be screaming fast. You'd be the envy of everyone on the block. 500 megahertz?
It's insane that that random attacks like that doesn't have it now.
Yeah. Well, it does. We'll get there.
Video cards that they make into miners for mining freaking Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was going to include some Bitcoin stuff on here, but I ended up getting long in the tooth, so I decided to save that for a separate thing. But
I was just going to say that our technology is so insane. Like a video card, what you use graphically to play video games, at 1080 is enough to basically make your own little Bitcoin machine. Yeah. That will download and process Bitcoin.
And take half the energy of the town.
It's because they run so smooth and they don't get so hot. And they're a GPU, not a CPU.
Same.
And they
run smooth, don't get hot. No.
Well, there was a while there you couldn't even get one. A 1080, you couldn't get one.
You forget about it, son.
They're all sold out. People are making.
Fuck out of here with your 1080 requests.
Bitcoin machines with those.
I'm still on 14.4 Bob modem.
I'm still trying to get into old EHS.
Guess what? I'm still a good comer too.
I'm going to change it to make it say I graduated.
Damn right.
Anywho, now Price of this team was the one that was known as the data stream cowboy. He was only 16 at the time. But Bevan also broke into other military facilities and NASA, and he said that his goal for hacking into all of this stuff was to find proof of UFOs and aliens, which takes us into case 3. There's another famous hacker from Scotland, Gary McKinnon. He also claimed that he was looking for UFOs, and he hacked into almost 100 military installations and NASA systems, and he wanted to know if we had proof and documents on aliens. Now, along the way, for some reason, he decided to delete some shit, I guess just for extra measure, and he went by the moniker Solo as his, nerd title. And he signed a note to the military at one point, the U.S. military, saying, "Your security system is crap. I am Solo. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels." When authorities eventually tracked him down, things got interesting here because the U.S. wanted to have him extradited, of course, for these crimes. But this would have made the laws over here were way more severe. And it was our laws that he was violating. It was our military and government that he was infiltrating. He would essentially have been looking at life in prison if that happened. So this story became kind of more well known because of the humanities aspect of the case, even more than the hacking. And a lot of support started pouring in for McKinnon, and it came from all sorts of kooky places. Lots of celebrities like Sting and David Gilmour. I think David Gilmour wrote a song specifically to raise money for the cause, and Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders. A lot of people thought that that he was actually trying to make certain files public that everyone agreed should be public. And that battle went on for a while, but finally in 2012, the U.S. just dropped the case and left it alone, and he didn't have to be extradited. But it kind of had become a PR nightmare for them anyway, so I don't think it would have worked well for them. Interestingly, though, McKinnon did say that he found proof of aliens in his searches. He had photos and videos of state-of-the-art technology and equipment and flying crafts. seamless, rivetless flying saucers. He found files on free energy, anti-gravity devices, and like engineering schemes and plans and videos of a lot of this stuff being tested, maybe in Area 51 or like places, among many other things. But this story really could be its own podcast, so I highly recommend looking into him if you're
I feel like
into that sort of thing.
Favorite hacker, because that's the kind of shit, like if I was like super smart and a hacker, I would definitely do
Go
something
looking
like
for that shit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the only thing that would interest me. But like, I wonder how that soundtrack sounded like. Like, oh man, you gotta let Solo go, because it didn't mean any harm. No,
That's good.
you know, got Sting, got everybody else. It'd be like the Michael Jackson, like Save the World, Save the Children, back in the 80s.
Case number 4, Anonymous. Now you can't talk modern hackers without at least a mention of the quote-unquote hacktivist group, which I hate that term, known as Anonymous. Now, they popped up initially around 2003 with some pranking-style tomfoolery at first on 4chan. And years later, it seemed like some of those folks that were getting together on 4chan became more of an organized unit and started doing bigger things. And when Gawker posted that video of Tom Cruise talking all crazy in that Scientology recruitment video, remember that?
I don't.
Oh, he's like talking. Some of it's pretty straightforward. It's just like, yeah, it's changed my life. But then he's talking about all these tests, and he's talking about kids asking him weird questions, and it's just like, wow, it's really weird to see Tom Cruise all fucking in love with Scientology. I highly recommend it.
Well, do you think he was exempt of a lot of things you have to do in that cult? I'm gonna call it a cult.
Yeah, like, if you have money or fame, you do bump to the head of the line in that organization.
Yeah, like you're supposed to give them like all your money. Like you work for free, you give them your money, and they deem what purpose it goes to.
Yeah.
He was exempt of that? Because like I can't imagine Tom Cruise saying like, "Hey, yeah, just take all my money." I
kind of could imagine Tom Cruise saying, "Take at least a shit ton of my money." If I think most of these Scientologist people genuinely believe this shit. I think there are some of them. Now, Scientology is an interesting thing because a lot of what the way they bring in all these powerful groups and bands and actors and famous and rich people is they have infiltrated themselves in Hollywood and the movie scene and the music scene and all these industries, and they can sort of threaten you or entice you with a pay-to-play type scenario. And I think there may be some people that are just going along with it like, fuck this shit. It's a cult. I know it. I don't believe any of this shit, but these motherfuckers made me rich and famous. And yeah, but those are the few and far between. The rest, like any other situation, like any other hierarchy or any other religion is the word. Most of the congregation are the worker ants. And, they all serve the queen, and then there's a brief hierarchy under that, and everything else just falls in place. But there's no question that Tom Cruise is basically, what's his name? What's that guy's name? The leader? Cavendish or something like that.
David Miscavige.
Miscavige. When he is toppled, probably for killing his wife. By the way, has his wife ever resurfaced? She's been missing for
I don't know if anyone's ever seen her.
I haven't looked into that. Maybe it's time to do a Scientology episode and just really doom our career here on the old podcast. But anywho, let's get back to... but the reason I brought that video up is because that was a key moment for Anonymous. So the Church of Scientology said it's bullshit that YouTube is playing this or hosting this video. They sued Gawker, and they attempted to sue YouTube for copyright infringement. This sparked a huge protest featuring, remember seeing all those people in Guy Fawkes masks clogging the streets of Hollywood, and they had a whole. It was like something out of Fight Club. Like they had people that were their one job was for like weeks just to constantly prank the phone lines to the church. Another group of people were taking down their email addresses and servers and websites. One of my favorite things about the whole thing was they sent out like hundreds, maybe even thousands of black faxes just to use up all their printer ink. Whoever thought that one up is my hero. Like, of all the chaos you can do, isn't that something like right out of Fight Club? Is like, we're just gonna fucking steal all their ink.
That's fucking hilarious. Could you imagine walking into the work? You'd be like, dun, 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 having my coffee, my donut, and look
check
at the
faxes. It's nothing but black bacon. Son of a... Yeah. Anyway, Anonymous posted a YouTube video addressed to the church saying, quote, "For the good of your followers, for the good of mankind, and for the laughs, we shall expel you from the internet." And this battle went on for a while, and ultimately it just kind of fizzled out. But they've gone after the U.S. government. They hacked into politicians' emails and posted some pretty revealing things from those emails online. They fuck with the Westboro Baptists. They threatened police who hurt activists and protesters following the Michael Brown shooting. They released the names of over 50 members of the KKK on their Twitter account, de-hooding them, if you will. So it's like, are these heroes? Are they slightly focused pranksters, cyber vigilantes? I honestly don't know what to make of this group.
And the truth lies somewhere in between.
Well, I think most of us can find something, or like lots of things to get behind, and then we can find some things to hate about this group. But it's been interesting, to say the least, to watch this unfold.
I think overall, as a concept, and the main things that they were doing, I was all for it.
On board, yeah.
Like anything like that, especially when you're dealing with the internet, there's going to be a few people involved that are no good. Mm-hmm. And that's, but that was what happened. And also then, apparently, according to somebody else I know, they were just completely infiltrated by the FBI. And so anything that you see now that calls itself anonymous is an FBI front, basically. That's
kind of badass in a not enjoyable way that the FBI is now operating as anonymous. But they're polarizing. Of course, this is what I've enjoyed about them to some degree. It's like, a lot of people, of course, were on their side when they went after the Westboro Baptists, fuckers. But when they went after the radical Islamists that were responsible for the, what was that cartoon, that newspaper that got shot up in France?
Charlie Hebdo.
Charlie, yeah. They got a lot of flack for going after the radical Islamists, and they, it's a weird thing where there are some religions that people are just not comfortable going after. Others, rape them all day long up the ass in the newspapers. It doesn't matter. Very interesting.
Chapter 3. The Creeps.
Now, as we've talked about, some hack as some sort of political protest or movement. Some do it for personal satisfaction or bragging rights to their fellow hacking buddies. Some do it maliciously, and some are just straight up creeps. Now, remember a couple years ago when all of a sudden a bunch of young celebrity women started getting hacked, and we got all these nude photos of like Jennifer Lawrence. Remember that? It was just a few years back, and that was all, I guess, attributed to this 25-year-old named George Garofano, I think is how you pronounce that. There were a few others involved with the hackings, but overall they got into almost 300 iCloud accounts. Apparently, iCloud accounts used to be incredibly easy to hack, and I think this is why it's such a pain in the ass to reset your fucking iTunes password now and all that shit. It's like you gotta have 3 devices handy, have your neighbor ready to call you and knock on your door 3 times. It's like fucking pain in the ass, but it's probably specifically from this case, because that's about when everything changed. I mean, the dude hacked into Kate Upton's account, Kirsten Dunst, and a bunch of other celebrities, but also non-celebrities. And I think about everything that gets backed up on your iCloud. It's your entire world. It's your emails, your credit card information, all your private photos and videos, which, of course, is how we got the news. Now, all those hackers were charged, and I think they all got a little bit less than a year in prison, which to me seems pretty light. I think Jennifer Lawrence, one of the victims, said that she considered the entire thing to be a type of sex crime. I tend to agree, honestly. Like, it's bad enough that someone hacked into her shit and saw all of that for himself. But the fact that it all ended up online forever and anyone can dial that up forever is something I think it should be an added charge, right? Like, I think that is a special type of violation that maybe not a sex crime, but it should be something like that, where it's an aggravated something or another. Like, I think it would be such a strange feeling knowing that someone had all of that shit on their laptop somewhere. Like, your entire world, your phone, anything that you sync up, anything that you back up to the iCloud, they just have it. Annoyingly, this entire episode became known as the fappening on Reddit. And the fappening capers continue. Haley Atwell, who was in Captain America, she recently was hacked, and her nude photos ended up on porn sites. So it's still happening, and most of this is done through phishing. You know, it's such an easy thing to do. You just have to make something look official and somehow hack into somebody's own email. I mean, that's one way of doing it, so it looks like it's coming from something familiar or official. And as long as they enter their password, you're basically in the door. At that point, you can install hijacking spyware on their laptops or smartphones, and you basically have complete control of their entire life. You can access their camera anytime you want, the microphone in real time, bear in mind. Of course, all the files that are already saved on there, just as easy as dragging it over as if it were a thumb drive popping up on your computer. But you can also send emails as them. You can make phone calls as them. You can sign up for new accounts as them, all without really knowing that something is even installed on their computers or phones. Like, there's a case not too long ago here in Washington where a girl was being recorded for the better part of a year by a stalker who installed hijacking software remotely on her laptop through a phishing scheme. So every time she opened it up, this dude was able to just sit back and watch whatever she was doing. Whatever was happening in the room. Microphone was on. He could read her emails. He could access all of that. And again, he could take over her identity for like a year. She only found out because the dude apparently showed one of his friends what he was doing, thinking that it was like something to brag about. And that friend also just happened to know the girl. And he didn't get very much jail time, if I remember. So I think it's definitely time to step up some new laws with this horse shit, because this does go so far beyond identity theft. Like, it's like Jennifer, I mean, she said it was a sex crime. It's a privacy invasion. It's not just being robbed. Like, that can completely ruin your life, and it would certainly change the way you think about it. And, you know, like we talk about damages, like mental damages, psychological damages in cases. I think that is something to start taking into consideration with these sort of things, because you're never really going to be the same. And there are dozens and dozens of these celebrity hacks, like all the time now, leading to nudes ending up online. And in the case of Haley Atwell, the hackers sent her a message saying that they would release more photos and videos of her intimate shit that they had of her, either as some sort of a threat or, I don't know, maybe it was some sort of an extortion attempt where they were just psychologically fucking with her. Those are pretty creepy dudes. On the topic of extortion, a lot of hackers are hijacking chemical plants and other like main, like really important large facilities all over the world, basically taking control of something that could have significant impacts on the environment or the local economic structure. And these are major facilities, making massive amounts of money, as you might imagine, are responsible for major things. And that's what drew the hackers to them in the first place. So what they'll do is they'll basically hack into their entire systems, access all of their files and financial information, and taking over equipment, mechanical operations. You can only imagine, what you can hack into now and what computers control and are responsible for in some of these places. Give us this amount of money and we will deactivate our hack. Imagine that. I mean, we live just down the road from a large nuclear facility called Hanford. Imagine if somebody hacked into Hanford, what they could do. I honestly don't know what they could do, but I feel like the answer to that question is a lot and just about whatever they wanted, including causing a major nuclear meltdown, apparently, because Hanford has been attacked by hackers a few times, and a lot of nuclear facilities and power plants have had to step up their game and completely change the infrastructure concerning what we can even access remotely. It's a pretty scary thought. It's one thing to think of this in the hands of someone who's looking to extort. It's a totally different case. It's not hard to imagine a scenario where terrorists are hacking into nuclear facilities for a completely different outcome. Can you imagine just a couple? They would only need to access a couple, right? And those Chernobyls all over the place. And that's after whatever the initial meltdown caused. But a lot of people are spying on their spouses through hacking as well. This would be an especially easy thing to do. I mean, most of us at one point or another are handling our partner's phones, and it wouldn't take much time to install a simple program that, again, allows you 100% remote access to that phone at any given time. And they've been there's quite a few stories of this type of cyber stalking, and some of them leading to some pretty major crimes. I had a friend admit to me not that long ago that he installed a tracker on his wife's phone while they were thinking about divorcing, and he said it took about 30 seconds to do, and he would get live real-time satellite feeds of where she was at any given time, and that's how he discovered that she was fucking somebody else and denying it. Yeah. I felt pretty uncomfortable when he admitted that to me, of course, but when someone finds that out, does it make it better? Yeah. Probably doesn't hurt, I suppose, but ultimately, if you can't trust who you're with, there's a major problem. Maybe that problem is you and your jealousy and your insecurities, or maybe you're 100% right. They are fucking somebody else. It's a tricky sitch, but ultimately, I don't think you should go hacking your partner's shit. I had my email hacked by one of my exes, and it does not feel grand. A lot of people are doing this, as indicated by the amount of downloads on these phone spyware apps. So think about that. These aren't hacks or viruses. These are straight up buyable apps that you can legally download right now in the iTunes store or somewhere else. And a lot of people are doing it. I was watching a documentary when I was researching the show about how people get hacked. And like I said, it's mostly through phishing. But this one dude sat down with the documentarian, and in 5 minutes, he was able to send him an email that looked very convincing, and he changed his password because it asked him to, and it led him back to all of his websites. What he did is he cloned a website that he found out that this guy made. He made another this guy did a blog on Squarespace. So the hacker set up a separate Squarespace mimicking that exact site with a different address. So when he went to log into it, he saw all the familiar things and then signed it. This all happened when he was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do. Let's see if you got any vulnerabilities. And it's like, so go ahead and log into your website. And he was like, okay, it should be auto-logged in. And it didn't, so he signed in. But he was signing into the fake website. That's as easy as it is to phish. Now that guy had access to his computer, and while they continued to talk, he installed something that started recording video and audio in the little webcam on the top of his laptop. And his emails were being downloaded to the other dude's phone. He was able to pull it up. It was insane. It took minutes. Now, this dude is a hacker. He's a pro, and he knows what he's doing. But a lot of these hackers are selling apps for people that don't know what they're doing. They're dumbed down. And they have very, very simple user interfaces. All they need to do is install something on somebody's computer, and that will pop up and, look official like that. And all of a sudden, in seconds, hiding in the background is transmitting to somebody who's now involved with your entire life whenever they want to be. And voyeurism is another big part of the hacking world. I can't remember if we talked on the last podcast about the website Instacam. There's a bunch of stories on that going around a few years ago, and it's a collection of web cameras.
Is it your homepage?
It's a collection of web cameras from all over the world that are insecure, and all that means is that whoever installed the camera, they just went to the store, bought a security camera or a nanny cam, they set it up, and they never changed the username and password for the software. which means that all you have to do is know the default login for any make or model of camera, addresses for servers that host the video for these cameras, but they're supposed to be private, that you log into. They're remote. They're not on your computer. These servers are elsewhere, which is something to think about as well. But if you don't change the password, that means that basically anybody can log into some random camera, and this place makes it easier. This website makes it easier because they have them all right there. And you can just go through by country and then by state and then by city and just click on what you see. Now, most of them were, like parking lots and front porches, but some of them were living rooms. And of course I had to check it out. And the fifth or sixth thing that I checked out was a living room. And then there's like a whole control panel. It was just like you were logging into your own home security camera setup, and all the controls were there. You could record, you could rewind the entire day. And I was like, there's no way that these controls are just going to work for me. So I started fucking with them. I hit rewind, and it started showing me in reverse the entire day that transpired in that living room of these people that I don't know, and somewhere in Kansas. I didn't see anything interesting, but then when I put it back to real time, I moved the camera around and I phased it over to the right of the room, and there was some dude just sitting at the fucking table eating cereal, not noticing that his camera is moving for no reason, like 10 feet away. And I'm like, this is even too creepy for me. Like, I just felt weird about
that's
it.
saying something.
It is saying something. And it freaked me out. Like, I was shocked. I was like, this is a real fucking thing. I wish well, that is what the kids say. I'm a kid. I don't wear old person shoes. I checked out a few more cameras, and ultimately, again, there wasn't much to see, but I did see a few bedrooms and a couple of bathrooms. And I'm like, the old me that had all the time in the world would park it on one of these and just like see what I saw. Like, I get the appeal of the voyeurism, but it was thousands, it must have been tens of thousands of them. And, I only played around with a few, but you can access these things as if it was your home security system. I found that terrifying. But these are all unsecured cameras that anyone can get into. Technically, maybe it's not even hacking, but it's a part of the same world, I suppose. And like user 123 and admin as the password is the default for a lot of these. So they just catalog them, and then they're there to watch. It's really interesting. The website says that they're doing it to educate people on the importance of setting your own username and password, and it's doing that, but I gotta believe that they might have slightly different motivations.
Chapter 4. Shit Gets Strange.
I wanted to talk about, I know I've talked to you guys about it. I'm not sure how much I shared on the old podcast, but a lot of hacking is just tomfuckery. Even Kevin Mitnick said that his favorite hack he ever did was rigging a ham radio to transmit over McDonald's order speakers. So he and his buddies would park across the street and fuck with people all night. I've actually had some experience with this kind of tomfoolery. I used to live in an apartment building right next to a big apartment building called the Burke Hill. And I had access to a lot of windows. But more important to the story, in the day, you used to be able to hear cordless phones over a police scanner. This still is a thing, but not nearly as much as it was. It's almost gone forever. But holy shit, was it entertaining. I knew a lot about my neighbors back in the day. But we would just sit around, drink beer, shooting the shit, throw some darts, and then we'd turn the scanner on. The phone call would come up, and we'd be like, we'd all sit around listening. Well, occasionally you would get something like a drug deal going down. Just straight up, over-the-top, obvious drug deal going down. They'd be like, yeah, well, meet me down Centennial Park in 10 minutes. We'll make the exchange. And we would call them back up because he'd leave a number. Call them back up. It was like, yeah, listen, man, we're going to move the exchange over to just below the police station. I know it sounds crazy, but, who would ever suspect anything? I was like, all right, man, all right. And, I'm good at mimicking voices. This worked an alarming amount of times. And one time we did get a dude arrested. Straight up got him arrested because we called the cops, like, yeah, there's a dude standing in front of the police station. That's... And we called from the payphone down at the Plaza Superjet. But we used to fuck with people. And you could see into the rooms a lot of the times. And, occasionally you would find someone talking on the phone. And you'd see into the room and be like, look out your window right now. And then you'd see him. Be like, oh, shit, there they are. Be like, you see me? I'm down on I'm getting in the white car right now. Like, yeah, I see you, but you're not on the phone. The stupidest, cheapest... in some cases, I guess, fucking up with people's lives. Pranksterism. But this was a highlight of my life as a young loser with nothing else to do with my time. I had a couple police scanners and lots of neighbors because I lived downtown. I was a super creep.
Yeah, so you don't really need that at that time, I think, when wireless kind of came out. You used to get it with the black and white TVs, like when you were actually searching to like the
all the way up channel 88.
Because I got my neighbors a couple times. Whoa, dude, that's a full on conversation. And you just stop. You could hear it through the static. I mean, there was still the but you could still hear the conversation over it.
Yeah, and cordless phones too, or
it was insane.
I'm trying to say intercoms, like baby intercoms and stuff like that. Or, whatever.
Monitors.
Monitors, thank you. But so some hacks are kind of accidental like that, or at least things don't go as planned. But this was the case with Sammy Kamkar when he accidentally took down MySpace. This was in 2005. He was 20 years old, and he thought it would be fun to create a worm virus to get more MySpace friends. So he started exploring the coding on MySpace, and he found several vulnerabilities, not just with MySpace, but with the browsers that we use to view MySpace. So he designed this virus to sort of hijack the browser on any computer that his MySpace profile was viewed with. It was a slow burn at first, but, he had friends, and they had friends. So when someone viewed Kamkar's profile, the script would kick in by automatically adding them as your friend. You didn't have to do a friend request. You were just immediately friends with them. That was part of the script. The second part was that it copied itself onto your browser so that whenever you went to someone else's MySpace page, it added him as a friend and it added the script to their page. Does that make sense? So
wouldn't it be funny if it shared like a glitter, like a thank you and glitter back MySpace days?
Well, it would have been a MySpace code.
Blank on there.
So people would unknowingly be sharing this worm constantly. Anyone that viewed it on their site, and this went on and on and on. So Kamkar went to bed after that first day. He got about like 10,000 friends. He's like, holy shit, that is spreading fast. Just think about how many times you check MySpace and you check someone out new. Like, oh, there's a new friend request, or that's one of my favorite bands, or whatever. Every time you went to that page, it installed the script and added Kamkar as a friend. So when he woke up, it was over 500,000. And it became the fastest spreading worm virus in hacking history. So he was like, oh, fuck, I better delete my profile and get out of this shite. This is serious. So he deleted it, but, it took, I don't know if you remember, but it took 24 hours to truly delete your MySpace page. It would be like inactive, but it was there. And all along, the script was off on its own. He used the analogy that's like, just because you're over the cold doesn't mean that everyone else that got your germ is better. So he deleted it. Before it actually got deleted, he was over 1 million friends. That's how quickly it was going. Like one more day, and he would have probably been at 10 million. But once it was finally deleted, he went back to check his girlfriend's page, and she had been deleted. And then all of his other friends had been deleted. He's like, uh-oh. And then he went to MySpace.com and got the big, oops, nothing here. That's when he knew he'd fucked up pretty majorly. And a few months later, he got a little visit from the feds with a search warrant. And they took all of his computers, his electronics.
Our friend Tom sent us.
And he is not adding you. But they took like everything, disks, anything that could hold information or be used to hack, essentially. And remember, this was 2006, so the Patriot Act was in full swing, and this included an expanded definition of both what constituted federal offense, hacking, and what those punishments would be. So the DA wanted Kamkar to go to prison. So he lawyered up, and his lawyer got him a pretty good deal of community service, a $5,000 fine, and a 3-year probation from anything computery. He was allowed to have one old, unconnected computer and nothing else. He did say when he got his computers back 3 years later that he went and bought a brand new Mac, immediately logged on, checked out a few websites, and then he turned it off and sold it because he had kind of weaned himself off of it. Let's talk about TV station takeovers. Now, in some old episode of Tales from the Space Pod, I know we covered the Max Headroom incident, but we got to talk about that because this is still like one of the most famous incidents and one of the most creepy incidents. On November 22nd, 1987, WGN in Chicago was playing the 9 o'clock news when suddenly interrupting the football highlights was a rather creepy dude in a Max Headroom mask. Do the kids know who Max Headroom is? How do you even describe that to someone? I just look it up if you're curious and you don't know. He sold coke, not cocaine, although you would think that from looking at the character. And then they gave him his own TV show. It was just one of those weird 80s Alf-like phenomenons that was here and then gone. But the man just kind of looked around while a nauseating striped pattern kind of danced around behind him for like 30 seconds, and then it faded back to the news. And that was that. Then later on... Yeah.
If they ever do a documentary, I think who do you think would play a good Max Headroom?
The guy that played him. I think the guy that played him still alive.
He's dead. What about the?
No, I don't think
is he? Matt Frewer. Matt Frewer. He's still very much alive, and he would be amazing.
Yeah. I was just Jim Carrey for some reason. It'd be fucking pretty awesome.
It might have been a precursor. I wonder if Jim Carrey was inspired by Max Headroom. Yeah, I could see that. Although he's too old now too. By the time Matt Frewer was doing it, he must have been in his 20s. I'm guessing, maybe 30s at the oldest. A pretty young guy. But anyway, so that was that for that first one, and then later on another TV station in Chicago, WTTW, which was a PBS affiliate, they were playing an episode of Doctor Who. And once again, the figure just sort of cuts through the static. This time he spoke. Now here's the actual audio. I like that
this guy's fucking 13 years old.
I like that the pattern behind him is like literally just someone holding something with that grid on it and twisting it. It's very effective. Because that's what the bit was. The bit of Max Headroom was basically that he was this digital guy. But so he's humming the theme to Clutch Cargo. He's saying random things like, I stole CBS. And he's throwing a Pepsi can. He's like, catch the wave, even though that was the Coca-Cola. At the very end of it, he pulls down his pants and gets spanked by what looks like a fly swatter from someone just off the screen. Anyway, creepy as fuck, right? And imagine seeing that as you're watching The Tube in 1987. Now, it came back, and the guy hosting the news was like, well, if you're wondering what the fuck just happened, so are we. But anyway, back to the sports. And to this day, nobody knows who it was and why they did it.
This is one of life's great unsolved mysteries.
No one has come forward on it. It's crazy to me that no one's come forward on it. Now, there are theories. I've seen some like little documentaries on YouTube, but nothing solid at all. So, and they know that it wasn't coming from the studio. One thing they do know is that this would have taken some serious equipment to hack into a TV station like that. Another creepy interruption was in November of 77. This was in South Wales. Again, during the evening news, a little wavy signal faded in and out and then came back, but then the audio was gone. Seconds later, like a supernatural-sounding low voice began speaking to the people of Earth for like 6 minutes. In 1977, this is a little bit of what was said here, just a tiny bit. This is the voice of Vrilon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. For many years you have seen us as lights in the sky. We speak to you now in peace and wisdom, as you have done to your brothers and sisters all over this, your planet Earth. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world, so that you may communicate to your fellow beings. The course you must take is to avoid the disaster which threatens your world, and the beings on your world around you. Skipping forward, blah, 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 blah. This is the age of Aquarius, blah, 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 blah. Be still now and listen, for your chance may not come again. People had to have been freaking the fuck out, right? Again, no clue. No, be still and listen, for your chance may not come again. 77, in the middle of Wales, people were freaking out, and they were calling the station. The station was like, we don't know what happened. Someone got in somehow and did the prank. But pretty funny and interesting prank for 1977, right? Like, I kind of like this one.
Provoking at bare minimum.
Unfortunately, there's no recordings of this. Someone put together a reenactment of it and posted it on YouTube, but that's not the original audio. No one seems to have that. Real quickly, there was an emergency broadcast that came from Steve Wilkos' show. Remember the guy that came from Jerry Springer? He was like his bodyguard. Then he got his own show, or Wilkins or Wilkers, whatever the fuck his show was. That it looked, you remember those emergency broadcast system interruptions that it was just like, that horrible sound that was strangely repulsive yet hypnotic at the same time. It was such an interesting sound. And then they would have like that little blue stripe at the bottom of the top of the screen. Evacuation level 3 fire. That's what we always got. We lived up in India. It's like, get the fuck out. You're about to burn. But this one it had a voice and information. It was, reports of bodies rising from the grave and walking among us are happening right now. And it was like a pretty good little zombie emergency broadcast. And it looked and sounded official. And it gave instructions. It gave actual emergency hotline numbers, which is kind of fucked up. And people bought it. People were terrified. This was in the 90s, maybe in the 2000s. But and then one more in the 80s, I think, or when HBO was kind of new. Somebody named Captain Midnight protested to how expensive HBO was simply by interrupting a movie with the color bars and one of those old-timey looking video letters saying, this is Captain Midnight. And it was basically just saying $12.95 a month. I don't think so. It's a simple thing, but it was one of the earliest examples of hacking into cable broadcast. So it's a significant part of the history Captain Midnight has, simply to complain about how much he was spending. I mean, you got to think about that. Awesome. In the 80s, $13 a month, it was quite a bit for a channel. That's more than what we pay now for HBO, right? If you get HBO Go. But this was a big deal because it caused Hughes Broadcasting to actually consider shutting down their HBO satellite because they assumed that the hacker had taken full control of it. So, and one final thought, I guess, is imagine the hacking capabilities once our brains are fused with microchips. Will we be hackable at some point? I think we probably will. Terrifying.
Let's hope.
Let's all hope. Hack me.
Put me in the Matrix,
hack
baby.
Me. Hack me like a hurricane. Yeah, okay, it doesn't make sense.
All right. Technically, we already are.
I suppose, yeah, we don't need microchips. We just need to be bedazzled and the right colors. Anywho, let's get on to some weird trivia with Christopher F. Hart. Back to front, weird trivia with Christopher F. Hart. Shall the streak continue?
If you're following along at home, John Mark has gone 4-4-4, which is really rare. I mean, you did pretty good previously.
4 for 4 with a 4 out of 4.
4 out of 4 on 4
Yeah,
for 4.
You really pulled your dick out, just laid it on the table. All right. Let's tonight I have 5 questions for you instead of the usual 4. Let's see if I can throw John Mark off. You all ready for this?
Shit.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep the same order. John Mark, you're gonna go first.
Motherfucker.
Ronster, you're gonna go second, and then Lyle, you will take up the rear there, buddy. Question 1. On average, 15% of single women will do this on Valentine's Day this year. 15%. Is it A, send themselves flowers?
Oh, that's tragic.
Is it B, have a one-night stand with an ex?
That's tragicer.
Is it C, lie to her friends about having a date?
I'm guessing tragic across the board.
Uh-huh. Or is it D, come out as gay? Not really tragic.
No. Well, whatever. Although now that I think about it, the first one's not that tragic necessarily. Maybe they're doing it to make themselves feel good as opposed to kidding themselves. Yeah?
That's like the one-night stand, right? Just doing it to make themselves feel good.
It's true. Who am I to judge?
John Mark.
Let's see here.
Although we talked about this before. The last thing
like
I'm attracted to on planet Earth is an ex.
Yeah.
Once that ship has sailed, it ain't coming back. And neither am I.
No more good coming for you.
No more good coming.
What was the A again?
A was
The
indeed to send themselves flowers.
Oh, okay.
Get one night stand with an ex. Lie to friends about having a date for that night, or to come out as gay.
I'm gonna go with A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ronster.
I think I might go with A as well. That sounds like I think I was looking at it from the wrong perspective. It's not a kidding yourself thing necessarily. Just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to get myself some flowers and put them on my desk at work and kid myself.
Secret admirer with a giant cock.
Might have just talked myself out of it being positive. But that still probably is real, yeah.
Lyle.
My heart of hearts, I wanted to go flowers because, like, a lot of times it's kind of an emotional thing, but I think it's about fucking. I think about 15% of women would go fuck their ex.
Yeah. What percentage of men?
I think a lot of people would fuck their ex. Do you think it's lower? Do you think the fewer men would fuck their ex on Valentine's Day?
I think far more.
Yeah, far more.
Yeah, I would wager far more too. Yeah.
Okay. Question 2.
Wait a minute. Are you guys ex fuckers? Do you ever look? Do you ever like think about an ex and think like, man, that was a hot night? I don't do that. It creeps me out to think about.
I think about the girls that I went on dates with and then chose not to fuck. The ones I'm like, I should have really given that.
You're such a romance novel.
Necessarily falls into that. Usually it was like I got really drunk at the bar and seen them and they wanted to go home, so I was like, fuck it. Just went our own ways, you know.
So you're an ex fucker.
This, baby.
It's not like the relationship restarted again, usually.
Sure.
Well, John Mark, technically you're an ex-dater, right? Didn't you and
Yep.
You and Jen dated years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know what it is. I feel like those relationships, maybe it's a part of my healing process. I don't know. Once I've gotten so much distance behind me, it's like imagining fucking a cousin or something.
Used condom.
I was going to say,
used condom. It's good in.
After you suck your dick and everything that walks, you're going to be alone by yourself because you can't tend to do that, dude.
No.
You can't think of it like that, man.
No. Yeah.
All right. Question 2.
But it's never been. Okay. I've given up enough.
Oh, fuck. All right. Question 2. Back in 1996, a 38-year-old woman named Bonnie Booth was fed up with a giant callus she had on one of her feet, like a corn, basically.
Yeah.
She was so fed up with this callus, she decided to take matters into her own hands. What did she use to try to remove the painful callus on her foot? Keep in mind, this made news. Is it A belt sander?
That's not so bad.
That's not bad
Made
thinking.
news because she had to go to the hospital. Okay, let me be more specific.
Well, there are over-the-counter versions of a belt sander, so I can see that. I can see her doing the math like that. Wow, how wouldn't this not be more efficient?
Was it B, industrial strength acid?
Oh.
like a man.
Yeah.
Just sizzle that baby right off.
Compound Z.
Was it C, a table saw?
Oh my god! Floppy right
You would
there.
want
Imagine the
assistance with that
precision
one.
And flexibility you need to make that prop.
And measure twice, cut once. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Measure twice, cut once. Give you all my farts. Measure twice, cut once. Don't want to gamble and lose. Or was it D, a shotgun? One of these was a tool she used to try to rid herself of a.
That's a desperate
bad callus
situation
on
when
her
you're
foot. Yeah, no
bringing out
kidding.
the old 8 gauge to get rid of a corn.
Let's go ahead and start with John.
I think I missed C, so I got
A belt sander, industrial strength acid, a table saw, or a shotgun.
Did you say where this was?
Did I? Let's see. I didn't, but I think it was the Midwest.
Dang, those all sound like reasonable
Do they?
alternatives. I'm gonna go with the belt sander.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm leaning toward that as well, but the acid's pretty good too, because I think most of the products that people use are some sort of acidic treatment. So I'll go with acid.
Okay. Lyle.
Yeah, that fucking chop saw, dude. That seems like that's just vulgar. Oh man, same shotgun. That's pretty vulgar too, dude.
I can't imagine thinking you would be anywhere near accurate with a shotgun.
No, I wouldn't think so, but who knows? I'm going to go with, and it because of most people like use them for, like, to manicure pets, the sander. Not like you're going to use a belt sander on your dog. But
Like,
Come here, Scrappy.
most people- I've been doing this all wrong.
they make a miniature version. It's a little tiny thing that it has a little sandpaper wheels that you use to trim your dog nails instead of cutting them. And I could see like how people could like go like, okay, this is totally going to work. It'll take a first layer of skin off, right? But if you have like really thick grit shit on, sandpaper on one of those things, dude, that would shred your foot.
Sure.
I'm talking like 0 to 60, you went to the bone, dude.
Well, the good news is the corn's gone. Yeah, so's my heel.
Oh, I'm going to go with the sandpaper deal.
Okay. Question 3. If you are frightened, your body will automatically, immediately produce more of this.
Urine?
Is it A?
Not bad. A bad time.
Is it A, white blood cells?
Mm-hmm.
Is it B?
Oh, is that where the term
earwax?
scared white comes from?
Ew.
I think that means first a pair.
Is it C?
Oh, earwax.
Did you miss B, Ronster?
No, earwax. Got it.
Hmm.
I didn't. I heard it through the words.
Was it C, testosterone?
What was the thing you said a couple episodes ago? Your lilt with how you delivered it was so fucking good.
I don't know why I said it like that. What was the word?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
A
do
scrotum.
Scrotum, yeah.
it's ball related. You just can't say ball related things. Quite right. Scrotum
or is it
or testosterone.
Is it D, keratin?
Keratin? What is that?
I love how
Nice
normal
little-
you said keratin. Like that was such a authoritative normal. You're like, fuck it, I can say words. Keratin. Or is it D, keratin?
What is keratin?
It's what makes up your fingernails and whatnot.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
all
also
right.
what makes a carrot orange. That has
So
to do
when
with
you're
coloring your pigment.
when you're frightened,
You're frightened, your body will immediately start producing more of this. Was it A, white blood cells, B, earwax, C, testosterone, or was it D, keratin?
I'm gonna go with white blood cells.
God damn it, stop picking all A's. I think this might be the week that Chris goes all one letter.
Monster.
Yeah, I gotta go with A. I think that isn't there a phrase scared white?
No,
Or is that just Scooby Doo?
some people like their hair will go white, like when they get scared.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I assumed it was associated with something else, but this is how colloquialisms work.
That would be fear, you know.
I'm gonna go with that.
That would be. You going with, wait, you're going with scared. You're going with
I'm
white
going with
blood
A.
cells?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I've never heard of anybody getting scared and their fingernails growing longer, dude. You know,
although that would be a good way for nature to give you a little bit more of a defense mechanism.
Right, we'll fight back.
Skies.
Personally, speaking, I think like when I get the shit scared out of me, I intentionally go, like there's somebody goes and I go so it would be like testosterone.
Okay.
Just a fight or flight.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that sounds very manly.
Definitely makes sense, but
that doesn't really counter everybody there because there's male.
Sure.
Also.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting.
I'm gonna. Yeah, dude, it's so tough, huh?
It's an interesting analyze.
It is, because that's got me thinking about the reason that dudes have morning wood. It's because when they wake up, we have this rush of adrenaline going through us, and it just kind of it wrecks our entire body. We go rigid for a little bit, but it's just like lights up our cocks like Christmas. And it's like,
again, it's like
so that could be tied to
your bladder, wouldn't it? Isn't that?
What's that?
Morning wood isn't like it holding your bladder for overnight, like you have to pee.
That might be a byproduct, but I looked it up one morning because I was like, am I? Because I do this thing where I wake up like every 30 minutes, in the morning. I'm like, am I just erect for 9 hours? When I was like, is this a problem here?
You're going to tell me I'm a good comer and a good morning wooder? A combo.
I'm a great wooder. Yeah. For now. But I got old man shoes, so TikTok.
Well, Chris, remind me what they are again.
Oh, I thought you picked. Let's see. So if frightened, your body will automatically produce more either A, white blood cells, B, earwax, C, testosterone, or D, keratin.
The fucking keratin it's the oddball, dude. Why the fuck would you ever pick that? So I'm going to go with that.
Fair enough. Do you know why our fingers and toes get pruny when we're in the water too long?
I knew.
It's meant to give you. It's meant to give you more of a grip, so you don't slip.
Slip on the grip.
Little science tip. I love that response, though. Do you know the answer to this thing? I knew. That's going to be my go-to shit when I straight up don't know.
I did. All right.
I learned it once.
Question 4. I'm going to butcher this. Hans Stingenmeyer was a well-liked town mayor who lived in Germany in the 1500s. In the 1500s. Now, Hans was an interesting guy. He held a record for his lengthy beard, which at one point checked in at over 4.5 feet long.
Impressive.
Now, sadly, is it Hans or Hans? Is that what you're laughing?
It's Sandra.
Sandra. Sadly, Sandra was killed when this happened. Was it A? He was trimming his beard, nicked himself, and bled to death.
Oof.
Was it B?
Trimming with, son?
He contracted a flesh-eating virus from bacteria he'd stored up in his beard.
Oh, I bet that's
1500.
I bet that's real.
Was it C? Is it C? He tripped over his beard and fell down a flight of stairs. Or is it D? His beard wrapped around his throat in his sleep and suffocated him. One of these things killed this man who was prided on his beard.
Yeah, death by pride. Huh, that's interesting.
Pretty
okay.
Much. John Mark?
I'm going to go with D.
Okay.
Oh.
Ronster?
Huh. The flesh-eating bacteria is speaking to me.
Okay.
That shit's there's got to be something growing in that much unkempt, right? There's got to be. Well, they say that the bacteria is all over us on any given day. It's just a question of, is our immune system vulnerable? Do we get a cut in the wrong spot? That's what lets it all in. Yeah, I'm going to go with B.
Okay. Lyle?
Question, was he a wizard? Because he could have muttered like some incantation. Like,
Fly, you fool.
something weird. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, death by beard.
This is weird. I'm just imagining Gandalf fucking either falling down a staircase or getting choked by his own beard. But I think I have to agree with Mr. Aron. It's the reason why I don't have a beard. I can grow a beard and it's sexy as fuck. But you know what? It stinks. It get food and shit in it, and it's fucking. It drives me nuts. One plus I was a smoker at the time, but like even now, like I started to grow a beard just like a couple weeks ago, and I just shaved it off because I just tired of it. But like I could imagine how much bacteria, because beards are actually fucking pretty goddamn dirty, unless you are always cleaning them like religiously twice a day, probably. You're gonna have a stank beard.
What do you say about that, Chris?
Fuck you, love. Anyways,
I smell fresh and dry.
just gonna fucking motorboat your face with my beard when I see you. Lollapalooza.
I'm gonna leave you some sort of
Bacteria this. I only came in it twice.
I'm sick. So I go with the less-eating bacteria.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the last question here, a little bonus question. More often than not, question 5. More often than not, most lipsticks contain this interesting ingredient. Is it A, pig lard? Is it B, bull manure?
What? Oh, bull manure.
Is it C, horse bone that's been ground to dust?
lipstick.
Kind of like.
Or is it D, fish scales? One of these things is an active ingredient in making lipstick, apparently. Once again, it's pig lard, bull manure, ground to dust horse bone, or fish scales.
Well, I knew there was a vegan lipstick. This makes sense, but I assumed that meant it wasn't tested on animals. But I guess that's what.
It makes sense.
This is what that's referring to. Huh?
There's
Interesting.
an animal product.
Yeah.
Okay. John Mark.
I'm going to go with the fish scales.
Okay. Ronster.
I'm going to go with A.
A was pig lard. Okay.
I feel like we put pig in everything.
Could you imagine what fucking fish scale fucking lipstick would look like? It'd be all glittery.
Yeah,
You know,
I can.
because
Shimmy,
something the queens would be into.
Yeah, it'd be all shimmy in the sun. The reason why I was laughing was the bone, the dust, you know, and I was just thinking about old Ronnie coming. These people,
Yeah, the old man comes shot.
Still got it.
Still got it. It's you got to add milk.
Troubling thing we've ever discussed on the podcast.
All right,
Old man coming.
I'm gonna go with the pig lard.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go over the answers here. See how you gents did. Question 1. On average, 15% of single women will do this on Valentine's Day this year. The answer was send themselves flowers.
Oh, shit. I
Should we?
didn't go with that, did I?
You did.
Oh, I did. I
You
changed my
did.
mind on it?
You and John Mark did, I thought.
Yeah, I was gonna do it, but I didn't. I should have.
See, when you guys start second guessing yourself is when I get super fucked up.
Well, I
I'm
know
like,
I changed my mind about it being sad, but I feel like I went with something else. But I'll go with it.
No, it was you guys.
Okay.
Both did it. Yeah.
Trust
Question.
your memories over mine. That's what name.
I went with fucking with the ex.
That's right. Yeah.
Question 2. Back in 1996, a 38-year-old woman named Bonnie Booth was fed up with the giant callus she had on one of her feet. So fed up, she decided to pick up the fucking shotgun and just blast it off.
Fucking guessed
No
that.
way.
You know, the reason I was thinking that I was almost second guessing myself on that one is because people are so dumb when it comes to firearms that she probably thought she was going to fire a bullet or something. Didn't know what a shotgun was.
Yeah. I don't know what her mentality was at the moment, but police were
What's her
considering
fatality
filing.
at the moment?
Yeah.
Mortality.
Fatality.
I'm guessing slim to none. I'm guessing her nickname is Shady Shin. Mm-hmm.
Nobody got that correct. I'm proud of you guys for not even thinking that could be true.
Damn.
Question 3. If you are frightened, your body will automatically produce more earwax. Wow. Isn't that fucking weird?
That is weird.
What
I didn't read deep enough into that piece to figure out why. I tried, though. I just it just is something that your body does.
Huh.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
nobody got that right either. 2 whiffs in a row.
Whiff.
Like it. Question 4. A man named Hans Stingenhofer was a well-liked town mayor in Germany. He lived in the 1500s. Hans held a record for his lengthy beard, which at one point clocked in at over 4.5 feet long. But sadly, Hans was killed when there was a fire in his house, and he went to run down a set of stairs and tripped over his beard and fell down the stairs, killing himself. Yeah, so he did that, right?
So he must have only been like, well, I guess with the head, he could be 5 feet tall. All right.
What?
Well, his beard was 4 feet tall. I was like, how fucking...
4.5 foot tall from the.
from
I don't know. Yeah, man.
He's not a tall guy.
It was funny. The details got. He had like a little pocket in his robe he would tuck his beard into, because it was so long it would like fucking drape down to his feet. But when the fire broke out, the hair fell out of this little
why I'm
pocket.
laughing? Dude's dead. R.I.P. He'll be missed. But
600 years ago.
Sure.
All right. Let's see here. Nobody got that right, so it's still John Mark
There's
1,
a metaphor
wrong
in that
1.
story somewhere.
Yeah.
Pride cometh before the fall. No.
Question 5. More often than not, most lipsticks contain this interesting ingredient. The answer we were looking for was fish scales.
He done it again.
Yeah, John Mark walked away with that one.
God dang it. Even when we're all sucking, he still sucks just a little less.
5 in a row, and those were like random trivia questions. Like I was like, I gotta throw John Mark off a little bit. I can't just. I know he
got some
has
wrong.
His fucking finger on the paint on the vein. He knows all these fucked up stories. Like he just knows how to find them.
It's incredible.
Not today.
Throw me off.
I was like, not today, motherfucker. And then Ronster, you almost went to the fish scales at the end, and I was like, oh, just do it, because I had a great tiebreaker.
That still would have been a tiebreaker, and he would have won that. I never won the tiebreakers.
You never win anything.
Inside or outside the podcast. Yeah. One wonders why I don't give in.
Oh, shit.
Well, congratulations again. Uncanny. It is, it's the one to beat. And the funny thing is, once one of us beats it, it'll be like right back to the streak next week. It's like, it's not like we're going to be the one on top for a while. It'll be a fluke. But, yeah. Well, exquisite. Good job. Good round. Interesting questions. I couldn't wait to get the answers to a lot of those. She shot her fucking foot off with a shotgun to get rid of a corn. I feel like we don't think much about a lot of things. Like, is this a good idea or the worst that I'll likely ever come up with? No drugs were involved? No mental illness?
No, maybe some drinking.
Just a corn. Just
corn,
a fucking corn. How bad could it be? Like, she can't have a foot, right? Like, even the lowest gauge shotgun.
I don't think she just stuck the shotgun, like, right to the foot. I think she probably... If I was going to try to
tried to graze it.
I haven't tried. I'm not a very good marksman, first off. I would, kind of put it on the side of my foot and hope that it graze it off, right?
If you put it anywhere near your foot, it's blowing it off. A shotgun, well, I guess it depends on the spread. If it's a shotgun, as a rule, emits a cloud of little tiny BBs.
Yeah, but unless you put slugs in it.
I'm guessing this wasn't a... Yeah, but still, a shotgun. Like even a bullet wouldn't do it. Like what?
It just wouldn't work.
That's your solution. Yeah, there's got to be some shenanigans afoot. Yeah. Retardation or mental illness or severe drunks. in the room. Was anyone else there? Like egging and all? I was like, yeah, it's a good idea, honey. It's going to work.
I don't have those details, but I sure hope so. I always sounded just like that, too.
I don't have those details. For there may have been a hillbilly in the room cheering her on. I just don't have those numbers.
I should have just said, yes, there was. In fact, just edit that in, Ronnie, baby.
Yeah, there was. I knew it.
Yeah, there was.
And cut right to me saying, I knew it. See, I'm right about stuff. Ron wins. All right, let's get on out of here. So if you guys want to support the show for now, go to patreon.com/tales from the space pod. We're going to move all that stuff over to, eventually it'll be /howbizarre or How Bizarre Podcast. And Christopher set up a new Facebook page, which is it facebook.com/How Bizarre Podcast?
Just do a search for How Bizarre Podcast, and that's what you'll find it. Basically, it has our logo on there.
It'll be. And then give us a like. And if you're following Tales from the Space Pod, we're going to continue to update that for a little bit longer because we want to give people a time to transition. We know a lot of people haven't even moved over yet. Like every week, someone discovers, oh shit, you're back, and they start downloading. A friend of mine just moved back to Washington State from somewhere on the East Coast, and they marathoned us the whole way, so they got caught up on everything, which I always enjoy thinking about. It's interesting because when they're doing that, it's like they're spending time with us for a day or two, like hours and hours and hours with us. It's like we're a part of their life. We're a part of their little journey, and yet we're not there. It's weird, isn't it? It's a weird relationship. Anyway, patreon.com/Tales from the Space Pod for now. If you want to throw in some stuff, we got some good prizes and rewards coming up soon, including bonus episodes, including some of the sometimes we get together before the show and shoot the shit, plot things out a little bit. It's not scripted. None of this is scripted, but it's not edited or on course of anything. So there's some fun stuff that happens there, though. Anywho, tune in next week. We will be talking about 9/11. You're going to want to hear that. So we will see you all then.
See you next week, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, baby.
I am just a hoo-hoo-rowing.